Good morning. Hey, that all worked so nicely. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service, and I work at Traffic Services. We're at Traffic Services right now. I'm joined with or by Brandon and Sergeant Warren Stein. Brandon's my partner in the office right here, Safety Programs Unit, and Sergeant Warren Stein is the training sergeant for Traffic Services. And we're talking about stuff and things. But before we get into it, Brandon, can you take it away with where our Vision Zero enforcement team is today?
Sure thing, Sean. Yeah. So, for folks who are familiar to the show, you know you can go to torontopolice.on.ca/divisions, and you can bring up this interactive map. It'll show you the whole city and where the divisions are. And then if you click down in the bottom, today Visa is actually in 22 Division and 55 Division. So we can click on 22 Division, and it'll bring us up a little map as well as some descriptors of the boundaries. So there's your divisional boundaries, and there's an interactive map over there that you can select. And then 55 division, same thing. Bring that up. It'll show us the divisional boundaries. It also gives you some further information as to who's some important players at that division. And then again, you can bring up your map and then explore the area for yourself. So again,
That's awesome.
these at 22 and 55 today.
And we announce this information not only on this show, but at 7 o'clock every morning. We post it on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you're ever curious where we're going to be or where the Vision Zero enforcement team is going to be, that would be a great source. Of course, we also love you to come in here and chat with us live when we're here on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube simultaneously. It's fantastic. As Brandon just threw up the graphic, there is a live chat feature here. You can ask us questions live on the show. We will answer on the show. It just works so well. If you throw in the questions, we will address them right away. Something else to tell you about. Oh, before we jump off of VZED, if you don't already know what VZED is, it is a team, a group of dedicated officers who focus on the Big Four. They augment the enforcement directives or initiatives by every police officer already in place. They just give more focus on the Big Four, which are speeding offenses, aggressive, distracted, and impaired driving offenses. And they do a fantastic job. They recently put out some numbers that were pretty impressive in terms of the kind of enforcement they do. And we appreciate them being out there. So without further ado, Brandon.
Well, we've got a good friend here, Sergeant Warren Stein. He's the training sergeant here at Traffic Services. He's a wealth of knowledge, and today, one of the big things we wanted to talk about, and I think this is going to be really important to most folks out there, is a coming act that is in various stages of approval right now, and that's the MOMS Act, which is Moving Ontarians More Safely Act. And this is in response from what we've heard of the public, but also in response to an increased number of collisions and stunt driving scenarios. So this has been pushed in order to deal with that, and Sergeant Stein knows a lot about it, so he's going to talk a little bit about that for us today.
Sure. Yeah, it's an act. The Ministry of Transportation, they're always bringing out new legislation, always looking at what they can do to make our roads safer, what tools they can give police, what implements they can give the prosecutors in terms of penalties and ways to prevent and to ensure that this type of driving behavior stops and doesn't repeat itself. So this MOMS Act is the next iteration, and it's a good act. It addresses a lot of little pieces, all the way from e-bike implementation up to the most aggressive stuff that we're seeing nowadays. It's the stunt driving, and certainly with the onset of COVID, less traffic on the roads, we saw a huge increase in stunt driving offenses, reckless driving behavior. And it's something we needed to deal with. And the ministry heard from the public, heard from the police, and came up with some good tools, good charges, good changes to the legislation that will help prevent some of this stuff from repeating itself. I think one of the biggest things that they have to look at in terms of how do they implement a new charge or a new implication to the charges will be front end and back end loaded. Some of the front end loaded stuff is the immediate roadside implementation or penalties. The back end is the court side, post conviction, and it's a big balancing act with what the public are looking for and How do they get the best bang for their buck when they're dealing with these new bills? And for stunt driving, they're not getting not a lot of it ends up in convictions in court for various reasons. So they moved some of the tools to the front end loaded, right up front. And the biggest change that we're going to see come July 1st is going to be a doubling of the impound for the motor vehicles for those drivers who are caught stunt driving.
So if you're caught as a stunt driver, you're exceeding the speed limit and we're still at the 50 kilometers over the speed limit. Then instead of 7-day impound immediately, you're going to see a 14-day impound. Is that right?
That's correct. And when you say 50K over, there's a slight twist to that as well. So yeah, stunt driving includes a lot of different things. It's looking at, yes, there's definitely the number, the speed over the speed limit, but there's also aggressive driving behavior, such as rapid or marked departure from the normal flow of traffic, aggressive lane changing, making that quick left on the green when the light turns green and trying to jump the light, stunt racing, spinning your wheels, doing those donuts in parking lots. All those things at some point are going to be, when I say the spinning your wheels in parking lots, that's coming a little later. That's coming in September. But that expands the grounds for the Highway Traffic Act onto private property. But so for stunt driving, the 50K over is for any speed limit above 80 kilometers an hour. So if we're talking about the 401, we're talking about also any 400 series highway. We're talking about the Don Valley Parkway, which is a 90K, DVP 90K. Those are 50 kilometer per hour over, will constitute stunt driving. When you come onto the city and the surface streets, which have speed limits lower than 80 kilometers an hour, they're actually lowering that stunt driving threshold to 40 kilometers per hour over the limit. So yes, you could be charged with stunt driving 42 kilometers over the limit on a surface street. Your vehicle will be impounded for 14 days. And a little later in the year, you're looking at an immediate change in the suspension as well. You're going from a 7-day immediate suspension to a 30-day immediate roadside suspension for that stunt driving offense. So a lot of front end loaded stuff with this bill.
One thing that I think is interesting, just because we're coming off the heels of a two-wheeled safety campaign, is they're making some changes from what I understand to sort of the definition of e-bikes and power-assisted bicycles, and it's going to regulate them a little bit more closely. Would you be able to talk about that? Because I have a basic understanding, but you're the man with the plan, so.
Sure. So there's not a ton of changes in terms of regular e-bikes. So what they've done is they've taken this big pool of e-bike manufacturers and all the styles and designs and all those features, and they've separated them into 3 categories. There's the e-bike, which looks like a bicycle, so it's got the exposed fork and frame, and it's got the battery and motor attached to it, electric motor attached to it. That is in one category. Then you've got those scooter-style e-bikes where you've got the seat and you kind of put both feet in front of you. That's the second type. And then the e-bikes that look like a motorcycle. They cannot go more than 32 kilometers an hour. However, their styling looks like a motorcycle. Those are being separated into different categories to allow municipalities to really decide how they're going to be used within their own municipality. So, for example, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, the city of Toronto could say, hey, you're good with the first type, the exposed fork and frame on all the bike paths, cycle tracks, bike lanes, but you're not good to drive the motorcycle style. This is now, I know once they've come up with these new definitions, this is going to City Council to hash out what they will and will not allow on city streets, but it gives the municipality a bit more leeway as to decide what they can and can't use.
Right, makes sense. Now, something I think we should get to, because I can tell Sean's itching to do it. We've
What's
got
that?
some chats coming up in the room, which
Wait,
is perfect because we want to engage with people, and we're
absolutely.
getting a lot of traction, and we have Warren Wednesday here, so it's the perfect day for it.
Yes. Well, first off, we threw up a couple of these earlier, and just a shout out to Lalo, who says good morning, and Quixotic Queen. Joyce Connor made a comment earlier. I put it on the screen. We'll throw it up again. People need to remember they're driving a weapon. Certainly, whether they're on an electric bicycle, scooter, or otherwise, or a motor vehicle, people can be injured as a result of misuse or poor decision making when operating them. So it is important that that people take responsibility or held to higher accountability when operating these vehicles. So seeing development in the laws surrounding those is great. Is great. Um, Oh, Joyce followed up with some lyrics from a song. So now just to let you know, some of the folks that are jumping into the stream and throwing some comments out are folks that are very active on our TikTok audience. I'm seeing familiar names. And Quixotic Queen is one of them. She's following us right now through Twitter, and appears to be happy with the fact that we're bringing the hammer down and doing some more enforcement when it comes to stunt drivers. Now, that you talked briefly about it, that marked departure, Sarge. We get this question on TikTok all the time. If I want to accelerate to the speed limit from a stop when it turns green, like the flag goes down and it's a race to 60 kilometers an hour, does that meet the definition for marked departure from the flow of traffic, or is that more justified or permitted?
Well, I mean, everything's situational. Really, you have to look at it. If you've got a couple cars that are starting from a red light turns green, and they take off in a race or contest, absolutely, you can justify that as it's the same charge, right? Stunting or racing. It's Section 172 of the Highway Traffic Act. So all depends on that particular situation. A lot of the marked departure is looking at regular flow of traffic. And when I say regular flow of traffic, I'm not necessarily saying, hey, at the maximum speed limit. If normal flow of traffic, let's say on the Don Valley Parkway on a mid-morning is 50 kilometers per hour, and you're driving at 80, 90 kilometers an hour, weaving in and out of traffic, that's a marked departure. The normal flow of traffic is what's around you. I mean, you could say on the 400 series highways, if you're going 110, and which is speeding, 10K over, you're still exceeding the maximum. Mm-hmm. If you're going 150, yes, you're not. Let's say 140. You're not going 50K over the speed limit, but if you're doing the same thing, weaving in and out of traffic, you can be charged with stunt driving and as a marked departure from the regular flow of traffic.
We see that all the time as we're driving to work or driving home or just anywhere in the midst of our commute. There's someone who inevitably comes through, and we are the cars that are doing the limit or going with the flow are simply pylons for them to race in and through. So that makes perfect sense that would be illegal. Now, Seamus the Lion has a question. He is another member of our TikTok audience, because I recognize some of the things he said in other comments. But are bicycles with engines in them legal to ride in Toronto? If so, what CC is the limit before you need a license? And we actually put a video about this on TikTok not too long ago, which caused some discussion. It's always good to have discussion, but there's some disagreements. It seems to be a belief that if you have under 49 cc or under 50 cc's, that it's not regulated, that you don't need to have a license, that you don't need to have insurance, that it's simply okay to have that vehicle on the road. And we've got the position that that's a motor vehicle now. An e-bike is even a motor vehicle, but because of legislation, because of the rules of e-bikes, that has been transformed magically into something that doesn't require license ownership and insurance. But with a bicycle, Sarge, it's a motor vehicle.
Well, yeah, and you've got a gas-powered motor vehicle, right? So you hit the nail on the head there where you said e-bikes or electric vehicles or electric bicycles do have a specific exemption, and it's written right into the Highway Traffic Act. I mean, the e-bike started as a pilot and went so well. They did make some changes to a few specifications, but they kept it really the same. 32K an hour is the maximum. But it's an electric motor assisted bicycle. So they do fall under a slightly different category. And yes, the ministry's been looking at, so, well, what if you have the gas power? What if you have the electric power? What's the difference? And you're looking at becoming a moped as opposed to a e-bike. And yes, they are both motor assisted bicycles, but that's what a moped is too, right? And requires licensing, plate, insurance. So yeah, they do definitely fall into different categories.
I think it was 2006 or 2008, there was a change in the law. When I was a kid, if you had a moped and you had a G-class license, you were permitted to operate that moped on the road. And they've changed that. You now have to have a motorcycle license, but you are able to get a G2 and then have a designation for low power and not require a full M. Did I say G? No, M. So M2 with a low class or low power mode exemption. It means you can only operate a moped, but you still have to be licensed specifically for that style of vehicle. And that was a change some time ago, but most people are still reverting or believing that they're okay. So there's definitely confusions that we want to address.
No doubt, and you're going to find tons of things that are for sale in the city of Toronto, but may not be legal in the city of Toronto. We've spoken about it before, like the e-kick scooter, right? Yeah, certainly you can buy an e-kick scooter at in multiple retailers around the city, but you just can't use it in the city of Toronto. You can use it in Mississauga, you can use it in York, Durham, but you can't use it in the city of Toronto.
And there's still rules. So e-kick scooters that you mentioned, they're not legal in Toronto and they are legal elsewhere. However, there's still rules. You can't attach a seat to them. You have to wear a helmet. You have to be a certain age. I was recently visiting in York Region, and I went for ice cream with the family, and I saw a dozen kids show up on individual e-bikes, none of whom were wearing helmets. A number of them that were on kick scooters, not wearing helmets. So those still are offenses that could have charges laid under the Highway Traffic Act for not complying with the pilot's regulations.
Right, absolutely. And each individual municipality can regulate certain pieces as to where those vehicles can be ridden. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The ministry has come out with certain guidelines, helmet guidelines, and age guidelines, and they do that with everything. They do that with e-bikes. They do that with e-kick scooters. And there are going to be, over the next few years, there are going to be a lot of new emerging technology, new types of vehicles that are going to come out, and they will try to regulate them. And you've got to look at it not being the bad guy. It's purely for safety. And we want to keep our kids safe. We want to keep our people safe. So these rules are there and designed for safety, and we need to follow them.
We'll come back to this question from Not My Real Name in just a second, but you touched on something I wanted to address, and that it's not that the goal is safety. And very often we hear comments, especially in the very active chats and comments on TikTok, about this is just a money grab. This is just an opportunity for the government to make money on the working class, and really. That doesn't fly because we don't get the money. A lot of it goes to other places as expenses. The goal is to change behavior. It's to give you that thing that doesn't feel so good when you get it, but maybe reminds you not to do it again. And of course, you would never get a ticket if you don't break the rules. So it's not simply a cash grab. It is a behavior changing activity, enforcement, or education through enforcement.
Right.
And sorry, go ahead, Sarge.
No, I was going to say, I just glanced over to the side. I saw the one question about how much input we have when it comes to the law changes and putting our piece into the pie. They do consultations, but they do a combination of public consultations as well as law enforcement consultations. And once again, they have to do a little balancing act based on politicians, based on police, based on the general public, and what does and does not go into the final bill that gets passed through the House of Commons there. So it's were there some changes that we the police would have liked in Bill 282? Yes, there was certainly some stuff with e-bikes that we were hoping for stronger legislation on, which we didn't get. But it was it's something that's not off the table for future discussion.
So ultimately, we get to sit at the table to give our advice and our suggestions, but it doesn't determine what actually happens. That is still the government that is going to determine, taking and weighing everything we say, and then just making their own plan. Just want to jump to Brandon. Anything to add on this particular question or comment?
I don't think so. I mean, well, while we're already talking about e-bikes and two-wheeled vehicles, and I'm flanked by two people who happen to love two-wheeled vehicles and motorcycles, and seems to be the pattern at
We're
TSP.
we're trying to convert you. We're going to get
I'm
you on
working.
two wheels.
Yeah, I'd love to. But I was wondering if the two of you, because you both have experience with motorcycles, but I was wondering if you guys could talk about what MotorSquad does, because we get a lot of those questions in TikTok, like, well, why do I see police on motorcycles? What do they do? Is it normal stuff?
There's a lot of things that MotorSquad does. It's a great topic with lots of areas. I mean, we have officers who conduct their regular duties of investigating collisions that do it on motorcycle, but they're not MotorSquad. And MotorSquad's been, I guess, repurposed a number of times. We were an enforcement unit. We were the special squad for escorts and things. And maybe, Sarge, you want to talk about more of the specialty details that they do. But it's a very multi-talented unit that can do anything, and they can do it on a motorcycle to boot.
Right. I think of them as the kind of the Swiss Army knife of our unit. Absolutely, they got a ton of talent, a ton of great officers that work in there. Very knowledgeable about everything traffic, but they do have a lot of specialty skills as well. Like as you were mentioning, one of the biggest things, and a lot of what the training that goes into preparing to be a motor squad officer is getting your riding up to the levels that you can conduct VIP escorts. When I say VIP, I don't mean celebrities. I'm talking about heads of state, the prime minister, visiting heads of state from other countries.
Referred to as IPPs, International Protected Persons.
Absolutely. So the Geneva Convention forces us to protect these heads of state when they come into town, and along with the RCMP, along with our OPP counterparts, there's a motorcade escort that some people may have seen going through the city. And our job is to make sure that they get from point A to point B safely, which means that the motor squad officers, they get out in front, they take control of intersections, they take control of pedestrian traffic so that that motorcade can keep on moving and get to its location safely. So that's one aspect of what the Motor Squad does. I mean, obviously, they do enforcement, they do investigations, but they also do, I guess we used to call them show and shines. So there were community events where people want to see the motorcycles, people want to speak to Motor Squad officers. Occasionally, they will go out to these type of events and be available for the public to see them.
And those are great events that used to happen on a regular basis, and less so now because of the times, and because we're so busy doing other things. But the winged wheels of yesteryear were a big hit, and seen in many a parade, and showing off the skills. It was amazing. As a kid, I saw it. I know Sergeant Kraft talked about having seen the winged wheels, and it had motivated him to become a police officer in the first place. So it's amazing how the motorcycles and the Motor Squad in particular have affected our city and created a wave of interest in our career, this path. So it is integrated very tightly with the I want to say the canvas of what is police.
Right, and people have seen on YouTube all the police rodeo, motorcycle training. Well, we actually call those motorcycle training events because you're upping your skill level. You're trying out new patterns. You're pushing the bike to the extreme limit, because for those motor officers, it's not an enjoyable day riding around the city. Just, hey, I'm riding a motorcycle. That's a tool that we use to get from point A to point B, but also to conduct that enforcement, to get it. It's one of the greatest tools that we use on the highways, because when the highway is totally congested, you can get around traffic, get to that emergency call that you're on your way to much faster. Yeah, these officers have, like I say, a great skill, and it is a great tool for the city of Toronto.
If you look at Florida, I was in Daytona Beach a number of years ago, and they have paramedics, fire, and police all on motorcycle, because when traffic is bumper to bumper, nothing can get through the city like a motorcycle. It is an amazing tool for getting where you have to go. And Quixotic Queen has a follow-up question back to the Moms Act, but it relates to motorcycles. So in September, people won't be able to do donuts in parking lots. Will it also apply to motorcyclists?
So I can't spill the beans on everything, and the only reason I say that is because it hasn't been fully finalized with the Ministry of Transportation. So they've given us a heads up of what's coming.
Yeah.
However, some of the things, especially with the MOMS Act, have to go through regulatory changes. And one of those regulatory changes is changing the definition of where stunt driving is being enforced. So right now it's only on a highway, which means a street where cars regularly travel. But if you are talking now about private property, what is the definition of private property? And in this case, part of the regulation, and the regulation change to that definition, is hoping to make it into any place where the public have regular access to. So parking lots, or places similar to that where the public can be expected to be, and certain type of driving behavior, even though, yes, it's not on the roadway, is extremely dangerous to the public. Not, I mean, and when we talk about the public, I'm talking about spectators too, right? Yes, they've chosen to be there. Yes, they are looking for entertainment, but it is an extremely dangerous situation to put yourself into, because yes, these are 3,000-pound vehicles that it's going to hurt.
And she just follows up saying, "Trust her to ask the question that can't be answered yet," but she appreciates the effort nonetheless. You mentioned with spectators and a lot of these parking lot events. There's a couple of things that I don't think many consider. When you do donuts, when you do burnouts on private property, you are damaging that tarmac. You are damaging property that belongs to somebody else, and it could result in criminal charges if mischief and things like that. You're damaging property. You could be Trespass to Property Act. You could be asked to leave. Many of these properties ask the police to act on their behalf as the representatives of that property. So there are charges that could be laid. You should not be going to private property to do this. And when you look at things like donuts or burnouts or drifting that we've seen in private property situations, that may actually move past the point of stunting and move into dangerous, because there's people surrounding. That is a public putting the public at risk, even if they're voluntarily there. And it could be a criminal charge of dangerous driving, which could be laid on private property.
No, and that's yes, we have the criminal code, which is obviously the highest level, and you've got multiple charges that we look at laying in different situations. Obviously, if someone's getting hurt, you're not just looking at regular dangerous driving. We could be looking at criminal negligence causing bodily harm, criminal negligence causing death, and like you mentioned, some of the other charges like mischief. So there's certainly a lot of charges out there that can be laid. I don't want to say it's a flavor of the day, but we're certainly using the criminal code and other legislation to seize those vehicles following these events. And we can ask a judge if we are allowed to hold on to those vehicles until the trial, because once again, these vehicles are being used in the commission of an offense. And I definitely know you've probably spoken about the race program on here before, but part of that is trying to eliminate racing everywhere, right? It's we don't want this type of behavior. It's known speed. This type of behavior is known to cause injuries and death. Maybe not in Toronto, but certainly around the world. There have been numerous instances where people have been seriously injured or killed.
Sure.
And we just don't want it here. So it's not we're just being party poopers. Our job is to help protect the public.
P for party pooper. I like it. I'm okay with that title. A lot of people don't consider the what ifs. It is, for many people, simply a way to blow off steam and have fun. And there are places you can do that. It's called a racetrack, and you can take lessons. You can get certified. You can get your track permit. You can do great things at high speed. And I'm looking forward to getting some video from Sergeant Clint Stibbe from our VSET team, who actually races his Mustang. He's got a Mustang that he takes on the track. He has a great time. He showed me some video and has promised to share it with us. So I'm putting him under pressure now, saying it on live broadcast that he's giving us video footage so we can share it. But there are outlets for this energy, for a passion of car, whether it be modification or racing, whatever the case is. There is an opportunity to do it safely in an appropriate place, designed with the appropriate support, like medics and that are paid to be there on standby for what ifs, not where we find out and rush to the scene to help people. So definitely want to do that. I just want to flip to Sean Chen, who's a regular contributor by way of comment. He's coming to us from YouTube. And the question is a follow-up for MotorSquad. Does TPS MotorSquad operate in all weather?
No. Well, actually, yes. Yes, we do. We just don't ride motorcycles in all weather. Yes, the MotorSquad stays as a unit, as a team, 12 months over the year. And once we usually hit mid-November-ish, when the snow starts to fly, that's typically when we put the bikes away for a few months, and those officers switch to cars. We use the cars, let's say, during December into January for ride spot checks, which is a big part of what the MotorSquad do for the festive ride season. And then depends on weather. Again, sometimes late March, early April, the bikes come out to play again.
But once the bikes are out, they're out. If it's raining, it's not raining, we're out. Unless it's absolutely dangerous, that's a different story. Sergeant, just looking at the time, I know you've got a meeting to go to, so I want to set you free. Thank you so much for participating on Warren Wednesdays. It's great to have you. And we'll see you again soon. Brian and I will take it from here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care, Sergeant.
So, yes, meetings are bad to be late for. And unfortunately, there's a meeting that he has to be at. So thanks again to Sergeant Warren Stein for being our source of great information. He really is a wealth of knowledge. We were going to talk about autonomous vehicles, but we ran out of time. So we'll have to push that on to next week's show when he comes back on and continue the conversation then. Let's see here. I hope we got everybody in the chat. If there's anything you'd like to ask us while we're here, we got a couple more minutes, but we are going to wrap up very shortly. But in terms of business, things we have to talk about. If you are following us on Twitter, you already know where to find us. But if you're not, we're available at Traffic Services on Twitter. We post content there throughout the day, every day. We're also on Instagram at Traffic Services Toronto. You can get us on YouTube. We are Traffic Services Toronto Police. And of course, where we will be going at 9 o'clock this morning, TikTok. We are Traffic Services at TikTok. And TikTok is unique because we are a live stream there where you can ask all sorts of questions and get your answers for a full hour. It is very informal. It's a lot of fun and it's free. So come join us there. If you're not already there, the app is free. You don't even have to sign up for an account in order to view. If you do like it, you can sign up and then you can follow us because we like followers. And we just hit 100,000 followers on TikTok yesterday. I woke up at 4:30 in the morning to see that we had 100,020. It's very exciting. And we're already at 100,000. 104,500. Thank you. Okay. So what else is going on?
3 months. It hasn't even been an account for 3 months.
That's right. We are brand new to the platform. It's fantastic. We're having a lot of fun on it. It's been very valuable. We're impressed with the comments and interaction that we get from those that follow us there. That we're bringing unique spin, a unique piece of information to people that are looking for it. One comment was that we're growing so fast because, or the comment was, you're growing so fast because you're bringing us content and answering questions that nobody else is. And we're really, really proud of that. If you have questions, regardless of how old you are, whether you are young or old, new to driving or seasoned, there's always questions that need to be answered. And where else can you get unfettered access to police officers? So cool. Well, anything else we need to touch on before we say goodbye?
Well, we need to touch on Crossing Streams tomorrow with News Talk 10.
Oh, hey, how could we? Brandon doesn't let me forget things, even when I forget things. Tomorrow morning on TikTok at 9:35, we will be crossing streams with News Talk 1010, the Jerry Agar show. So what happens is we do our regular TikTok where we do the live stream answering questions, but we will be hitting a button and be broadcast over the air on News Talk 1010 in Toronto. For I think it's about 10 minutes of the show. We'll be doing that, and Jerry jumps on with us, and we continue the conversation. We take calls from the radio audience. They answer text message questions from them as well. It's very cool indeed.
Super cool. So don't miss it, folks, because we get questions. Obviously, we get the TikTok questions, which is great, but we get a different sort of different vibe, different type of question from the News Talk 1010 subscribers, audience. Viewers. Yeah. Yes. So
we still have to do the follow-up because we got a question last week or last time we were on about dollies. When you're towing a car on a dolly, does it need a license plate? And the answer to that tomorrow.
Stay tuned.
Awesome. Listen, everyone, have a great day. We had a 35-minute show today. That's excellent. We look forward to seeing you again. We're back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there, and we will see you tomorrow. Unless you're on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, we'll see you in 25 minutes.
There you go.
Take care.